The Galactic Assembly was the largest governing body in known space. Representatives from 1,000 species met in its vast halls to debate, negotiate, and decide the fate of the galaxy. Wars were prevented here. Alliances were formed. History was made. For centuries, humans had attended. They sat quietly in their designated section, listening carefully, taking detailed notes. They never spoke during debates. Never argued during negotiations. Never voted on any measure. Other species barely noticed them. To the galaxy, humans were harmless observers. They were ignored, dismissed, forgotten. When trade routes were discussed, human interests were overlooked. When borders were drawn, human colonies were disregarded. When crises arose, human concerns were never considered. No one thought humans were important. Why would they? Humans never spoke, never complained, never fought back. They simply sat there, taking notes, watching quietly. What no one understood was simple. Humans were not silent because they had nothing to say. They were silent because they were learning, watching, waiting. Every debate, every negotiation, every decision was recorded in their notes. They studied how species interacted, how alliances formed, how power shifted. They learned who could be trusted and who could not. They were patient. They had time. Other species took advantage of this patience. Trade deals that harmed human colonies were passed without opposition. Borders that cut off human worlds from resources were approved without discussion. Military actions that endangered human lives were authorized without concern. Humans never complained. They simply noted everything and continued their quiet observation. One day, a young alien representative sat with her mentor, watching the humans. She had noticed them many times. Always quiet. Always watching. Never speaking. "Mentor," she asked, "why do humans never speak? Are they afraid?" Her mentor glanced at the humans and shrugged. "They are weak. Irrelevant. They have nothing to contribute." The young representative nodded, accepting the answer. But something about the humans' calm silence bothered her. It felt too patient. Too controlled. Too much like waiting. She wondered what they were waiting for. A crisis erupted in the assembly. Two powerful species, the Korath and the Xylosians, had reached a breaking point. Border disputes, old hatreds, fresh insults, everything boiled over at once. The assembly erupted into chaos. Representatives shouted across the hall. Threats were exchanged. Alliances shifted as species chose sides. Some walked out in protest. Others stayed to scream. No one could agree on a solution. Every proposal was rejected. Every compromise was refused. The galaxy stood on the brink of war. Through it all, humans sat quietly. In their designated section, they watched the chaos with calm attention. They listened to every shout, every threat, every argument. They took notes. They observed. They did not react. Did not speak. Did not move. Some species noticed and grew annoyed. "Why do they just sit there?" a Korath representative shouted, pointing at the humans. "Do they not care? Are they cowards?" Others joined in. "They have nothing to say. Nothing to contribute. They just watch while the galaxy tears itself apart." A Xylosian delegate shook her head. "Ignore them. They are irrelevant. They have always been irrelevant." The shouting continued. The chaos grew. But a few representatives noticed something strange. In the midst of all the noise, all the anger, all the chaos, the human delegation remained perfectly calm. They did not flinch at threats, did not react to insults, did not show fear or anger or concern. They simply sat there, watching, waiting, taking notes. A young representative who had asked about them before felt a chill. Something about that calm felt wrong. Too controlled. Too patient. Too much like waiting. She wondered what they were waiting for. The assembly reached its breaking point. The Korath representative screamed final threats. The Xylosian delegate prepared to walk out. Others shouted, pleaded, demanded. War was inevitable. Everyone could feel it. Species began to leave. Ships were being prepared. Soldiers were being called. The galaxy was about to tear itself apart. Then, in the midst of the chaos, the human delegation stood. The room froze. Every eye turned to the humans. Every voice fell silent. No one spoke. No one moved. No one breathed. For centuries, humans had sat quietly, unnoticed, ignored. Now they stood, and the entire assembly stared. The lead human representative, Ambassador Sarah Chen, walked slowly to the center of the hall. She was calm, composed, unafraid. She stopped in the middle of the room and looked around at the 1,000 species gathered there. Her gaze was steady, patient, certain. Then she spoke. Her voice was quiet, but it carried to every corner of the vast hall. For centuries, we have sat here. The silence deepened. We have listened. We have learned. We have watched. She paused, letting the words sink in. You shouted. You threatened. You ignored us. You thought we were weak. You thought we were irrelevant. Another pause. You were wrong. The room remained frozen. No one knew what to say. No one knew what to do. The humans, silent for so long, had finally spoken. And their words carried weight. Ambassador Chen looked at the representatives who had been ready to go to war. Before you destroy yourselves, perhaps you should listen. Ambassador Chen continued, her voice steady and clear. You have ignored us, dismissed us, made decisions that harmed our worlds. You thought we were weak. You thought we were irrelevant. She paused, letting the words hang in the air. You were wrong. She activated a holographic display. Centuries of records appeared, floating in the air for all to see. Every decision that had harmed human interests. Every ignored plea. Every dismissed concern. Trade deals that stripped human colonies of resources. Borders that cut off human worlds from vital supplies. Military actions that endangered human lives. The evidence was undeniable. Species watched in horror as their own actions were laid bare. The Korath representative stared at records of deals he had pushed through, ignoring human protests. The Xylosian delegate saw borders she had drawn that cut off human colonies. Others saw their own mistakes, their own dismissals, their own arrogance. The room was silent. Why? Someone finally asked. It was the young representative who had wondered about the humans before. Why did you never speak? Why did you never fight back? Ambassador Chen smiled. A calm, patient smile. Because we were waiting. Waiting for what? Another asked. Waiting to see. Watching. Learning. We wanted to know who our friends were. Who our enemies were. Who could be trusted. She looked around the room. Now we know. The realization hit the assembly like a physical blow. Humans were never weak. They were never irrelevant. They were patient. For centuries, they had watched. They had recorded. They had learned. And now their patience had ended. No one spoke. No one moved. No one dared. Because now they understood. The quiet ones were the most dangerous of all. The silence in the assembly continued. Ambassador Chen looked around at the frozen faces, the stunned representatives, the galaxy waiting for her next words. Then she spoke again. I have a solution to your crisis. She activated her holographic display once more. A plan appeared, detailed, comprehensive, fair. The plan addressed every concern. Every border dispute was resolved. Every grievance was addressed. Every interest was balanced. It was perfect. Representatives studied it in stunned silence. They looked for flaws, for bias, for anything to criticize. They found nothing. The plan was so fair, so balanced, so wise that no one could argue against it. The vote was called. One by one, species cast their ballots. Yes, yes, yes. When the last vote was counted, the result was unanimous. The crisis was averted. War was prevented. The galaxy owed its peace to humans. From that day forward, everything changed. Humans were no longer ignored. They were consulted on every decision, respected in every debate, included in every discussion. Their silence was understood as strength, not weakness. Their patience was recognized as wisdom, not fear. When they spoke, everyone listened. Years passed. A young alien representative sat with her mentor in the assembly, watching the humans. They sat quietly, as always, watching, listening, taking notes. Mentor, she asked, why do humans speak so rarely? They have so much wisdom to share. The mentor smiled. She had been there that day. She would never forget. Because they know that silence is powerful, she said quietly. They speak only when they have something worth saying. And when they speak, everyone listens. The young representative nodded slowly. Will they ever need to speak again? The mentor looked at the humans, at their calm faces, their patient eyes. Perhaps. But if they do, we will listen. We learned that lesson the day they stood up and the galaxy froze. In the assembly, humans sat quietly, watching, listening, learning, ready to speak again if needed, but hoping they never had to.